video is for modeling percentages, and there are two parts. In the first part, we look at visually what percentages could look like. And then in the second part, we take a fraction and convert it into a percentage. So why do we need to learn about percentages? Well, let's say you got a test back and you got 28 out of 36. Most of you would probably say, well, what mark is that? And to find the mark, we have to make a percentage out of it. So a percent is kind of like a universal way of looking at ratios, or like how much value something is, because percent literally means out of 100. So if we convert everything to be out of 100, it's easier for us to compare. So that's why we're learning about percentages. So the first activity you'll do is figure out what percent is shaded. All of these have 100 little squares in them, so you just have to count the number of squares that are shaded. Sometimes though they'll ask you what percent is not shaded, so you really need to look out for that little word that's kind of sneaky. So let's do this first example. You can either count the colored parts, or you can count the blank and subtract from 100. So let's just count the colored parts. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and then I can tell this is 9. So this percentage would be 89% is shaded. What percent is shaded in this orange part? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 55% of that is shaded. And then in the blue, it's asking what is not shaded. So I'm going to count the blue and then subtract it from 100. Got 10, 12, 13, 14. So that means I've got 6 here and then 80. So 86% is not shaded. You could also count the blank parts if you want. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a visual of what percentages could look like in a hundreds grid. For the next part of the activity, we are given a fraction and we have to convert it into a percentage. Now remember, percent means out of 100. So to figure out what percent a fraction is, we have to force this fraction to be out of 100. And then it's really obvious what our percentage is. So I'm going to show you a visual of how that works. In this example, we have 1 out of 50. So I've got 50 little squares and 1 is colored in. In order to keep this ratio the same, but to make it out of 100, I can draw another 50 squares. So I'm just doubling it, really. 1, 2, 3. And then I have to keep the ratio the same. So if there's 1 colored in here and I'm doubling it, I have to color in for a total of 2. And then you can see if you smush these together and made just 100 grid, you would have 2 out of 100 colored in, and your ratio stays the same. And now 2 out of 100 is 2%, because percent means out of 100. So 1/50th is equivalent to 2%. Okay, let's do 2 out of 25. So I've got 25 squares here and 2 are colored in. We need to make our fraction out of 100. So I need 4 of these 25 squares to make a total of 100 squares. So now I've got 4 squares with 25 each. And to keep the ratio the same, or the percentage the same, I have to put 2 colored ones in each. 2. So now I've got 100 squares and 2, 4, 6, 8 colored in, which means I have 8 out of 100 and that is 8%. So 2 out of 25 is equivalent to 8%. Now, what if I don't have pictures? Well, you can use your equivalent fraction rules that we've been practicing and convert this fraction into an equivalent fraction out of 100. So I'm going to make both of these denominators 100. Another thing you could do is estimate first. So 3 out of 50, you can kind of guess in your head what percentage that might be. All right, 50 times 2 is 100. 3 times 2 equals 6. So 3 out of 50 equals 6 out of 100, which is 6%. 8 out of 10, you might already be used to this from quizzes and things like that. 8 out of 10, multiply 10 by 10 to get 100. Have to do the same thing to the top, times 10. 8 times 10 is 80. 80 out of 100 is 80%. Okay, so that's how to calculate percentages. You make the number out of 100 and then you have a percent.